Back when I was a kid, there was this show on TV that was really popular called 30 something. For older people, you might remember it. It was basically about a bunch of people in their 30s dealing with whatever problems they had. They were boomers, so like I don't know what problems they had. Oh, my mortgage is like $300 a month. Life's so hard or whatever. But in any event, it was a really popular show for like a season or two, and then it had a couple more seasons, then it disappeared. And like now you can't see it anywhere. It's just like you go to Apple TV or Netflix or Hulu or whatever. It's nowhere to be found. You can't watch 30 something anymore streaming. You can still watch it on DVD. You can go on Amazon. You can buy the DVDs there. The entire series, I think they have for like $230. If you really want to watch 30 something, you can. Chances are it's not streaming because of like music rights. A lot of shows back in the day, they would use songs. They would have like a soundtrack. Now those songs are really, really expensive to license. And because they didn't conceive of streaming as a thing back then, certainly this predates the internet by like 10 years and streaming by whatever, 20, 30 years or whatever it is. And so they didn't have, so when it came time to negotiate rights for streaming, a lot of stuff, they've had to replace me. That's why Homicide Life on the Streets, which is a terrific show, just ended up on like Peacock or whatever. I saw it like they've got its own channel on Pluto TV, but they actually replaced a lot of the popular songs back in the day with songs that are much cheaper to license. Doing all that takes a lot of time and effort. Anyways, this is my long way of saying, at least with 30 something and similarly Homicide Live in the Streets, you can buy that media. It's not entirely lost media. It's just not streaming. For us wrestling fans, we're about to experience in 21 days our own form of that, except even kind of worse, because ECW's Hardcore TV and the vast catalog of WCW Nitros and Thunders are about to be, at least temporarily, but probably for the foreseeable future, truly lost media. Because in 21 days at the end of 2025, those shows will no longer be available on any streaming platform. And given that, to my knowledge, they never actually released entire seasons of Nitro, Thunder, and ECW Hardcore TV on like DVD or videotape, because like they did that shit every week, we're not going to be able to see it like pretty much anywhere unless you've like videotaped it, unless you've like recorded it all using OBS or something and you're like an AV type person. But they're about to be lost media. Now, back in 2021, when I first started doing wrestling content here at the what used to be the MF Steve channel, now it's of course Wrestle Juice. Some of the first videos I did were looking at the transition from the WWE Network over to Peacock, because back in where's my notes here? March of 2021, all the offerings that were on the WWE Network, which if you don't know the WWE Network, it was an amazing platform. It was just a fantastic streaming service that the WWE offered that was honestly a steal in terms of the value. For $10 a month, $9.99 a month, you got every monthly pay-per-view, the library, original programming, and my God, WWE was really on a roll in terms of producing content for the network. And not just that, acquiring content, meaning the tape libraries from all the territories back in the day. Everybody that actually kept their tapes, WWE would endeavor to get those tapes to entice wrestling fans to plunk down the $9.99 a month. Again, I cannot reiterate enough. This was a fucking steal. Not only that, all of the videos that they had would like break down in chapters all the matches that they would have. So you could just skip to whatever you wanted to see. Whoever ran the network was amazing. Unfortunately for us wrestling fans, it wasn't really a good business decision for WWE to just sort of in-house their streaming stuff. Obviously, these days, they have multiple billion-dollar deals to license their various content to all sorts of streaming services. But the one thing that's probably not really worth all that much money is the actual library of content. It's a very niche thing. Like, how many people want to watch a random episode of Thunder from late 1990s? No, did it start in 97 or 98? Whatever, late 1998, whatever. And so it's probably not worth a lot, which is why Peacock's not keeping it around. And WWE, I'll talk about what they're going to do with it here in a second, but WWE really isn't in a position to just put all that stuff up in one place at the same time, because again, that takes resources, that takes effort. So in March of 2021, the library moved to Peacock. Now, all of us nerds kind of bemoan the fact that it's like, oh, you did some things, like you censored certain, offensive content that used to be on the thing, or like they wouldn't allow, I think, a search of Chris Benoit, but that might have actually been on the network. Like people who have killed people, they stopped allowing those names to be searchable. But I think that moved over to Peacock as well. But they started censoring stuff, so they got rid of certain things, moving over to Peacock. But by and large, like still to this day, if you get on Peacock, you can find a lot of the territory tapes. There were other things that didn't make it, like the hidden gems of the WWE network, where they dig up stuff that like people didn't remember or didn't know about, or were like, holy grail type things, like the last Battle of Atlanta. I think a Tom McGee match with Bret Hart or something ended up being on the WWE network as well. And I don't know if that got ported over to Peacock or not. In any event, Peacock was fine. It was good enough. Like the user interface really to this day isn't all that great on Peacock, especially compared to the WWE network. But then things got really crazy, because in October of 2024, NXT, that was just over a year ago, NXT and its content moved over to the CW. All right. So that stuff went over to a different streaming platform. I don't even have access to the CW platform. I mean, I'm sure I've got access to it. I just didn't bother to look it up because I think I did it before, and it's just kind of a mess. In January of this year, 2025, WWE Raw content moved over to Netflix. But when they did it, they didn't do it all. If you go back and you look at the actual content on Netflix in their Raw vault, it's like a bunch of the years just don't have anything, or just have a couple episodes here and there. There's not a whole ton over there. Also in January 2025, internationally, the WWE Network completely died. So between 2021 and January 2025, you can actually still get on the WWE Network internationally. All you got to do is fire up your old VPN, and you can get on there, and you can still witness the wonders of the WWE Network. But that's completely dead as of the beginning of this year, 2025. So Raw moved to Netflix. NXT was on the CW. And then in January 2025, also, the library internationally moved to Netflix, but there was no ECW TV, no WCW, no territories, et cetera, et cetera. So when you get on Peacock now, the reason I'm doing this video is because I just noticed this like 5 days ago. You get on Peacock now, and it's got like only 21 days left to watch this particular thing. And that applies to, it's interesting because the territories, WCW and ECW, all have that. ECW has every episode of Hardcore TV, every episode of when they moved to TNN or Spike or whatever, and every episode of WWE ECW, like the WWE takeover of ECW. They got all that stuff now. And they did it every single week. So we're talking about from 1992, I think it's 1992, until its demise like 9 years later, you can get all the ECW television shows. Most of those years, they ran 52 weeks. That's a lot of content. That's a lot of content that is simply going to disappear. And that fucking sucks. It sucks because, like, and granted, I know it sucks as in like, oh, what a bummer I can't watch wrestling, and not, oh, what a bummer my healthcare insurance premiums just doubled. So, like, context and priority, right? But it still sucks that, like, a lot of wrestling history is about to become lost media. And we'll get to the WWE Vault on YouTube here in a second. But it just sort of goes to show that nothing's really permanent in the age of the internet. I built my whole career on something that is now lost media. it is wild too, because here's a little anecdote for you. Just a couple weeks ago, we were talking to our awesome managers over at Studio 71. They're the people that whenever we have ads over at Going in Raw, which pays us pretty good, they're the reason for that. They are amazing. They're awesome. And we just got we had a meeting with some of their people over there just to talk about strategy going forward into the new year and stuff like that. Just to, hey, what's going on? And we hadn't talked to these particular people before, so we were sort of talking about our history. And we mentioned, Machinima, back when we got laid off of Machinima, blah, blah, blah. And one of the people said, oh, Machinima, wasn't that like a gaming channel or something? And it was like, yes, no, it was the gaming channel. It was the place to be for gaming content. Some of our videos, our top 10 videos, the 10 for the win stuff, would get millions of views. Millions of views. This is so stupid, and it's totally not a flex, but that shit was so popular back in the day. I used to get recognized out just doing stuff. These days I got recognized at wrestling shows, but that's kind of it. Fine with that. I don't really care. Fame is a weird thing, and I was never that. But being recognized out on the street every once in a while, it was pretty neat, especially when I was with one of my stepkids, and that was kind of a flex. I'm not going to lie, that was kind of a flex. But Machinima was super popular. And then Warner Brothers bought them and decided that trying to figure out all the copyright implications, because Machinima would be wildly it was the Wild West on YouTube back then in terms of violating copyright law, just sticking all sorts of shit in videos and licenses that had run out. The lawyers at Warner Brothers were like, we're not gonna keep this up because it'd be such a disaster. There were so many videos uploaded to the Machinima channel. It'd be an absolute copyright disaster to put time, money, and resources into something that really, it's not worth it. And so they just scrubbed the Machinima channel. So all my friends from Machinima and all the work they had put into that stuff, it's just gone. Now, there are multiple channels out there that have been started to upload stuff that had been ripped by certain people. And so there are still, videos of that are still up. But basically, the channel that my career was built on is dead. It's gone. It's basically lost media, besides the people who've uploaded to YouTube. So let's talk about YouTube here for a second, because after the beginning of the year, basically some episodes of Raw, some episodes of SmackDown, some episodes of NXT, most of the pay-per-views are still going to be available on the streaming services where you can find WWE content. So that stuff's going to be there. A Fightful report the other day. When was this? This was December 9th. So, this is just yesterday. Wow. Okay, cool. Right on. Timely. An update on the WWE library content after the Peacock deal. Said this. Fightful has asked WWE in an official capacity a number of times about the status of the library, and were not given an answer. However, we spoke to a number of sources around the company about what they expect. Those that we heard from expect the content to be slowly rolled out onto the YouTube and various vault channels that WWE owns. It is believed that because of the size of WWE's footprint on YouTube, they'll likely have a favorable deal with Google. It is not expected that WWE will just upload the entire library. They've long been happy with the buzz that their vault channels get and the return they receive financially. It's also internally viewed as a way to cultivate fans. We weren't told of any real change to Vault, just that there will be the possibility of more content appearing on those channels. WWE Network was able to spin off NXT documentaries and premium live events into individual right fees that have been very valuable to WWE. The library ended up getting packaged with PLEs and Saturday night's main event for the Peacock deal, and that element of the agreement is expiring soon. That is this is expiring at the end of the year thing. When speaking to people who've been around the company for years, they said that the library just wasn't the specific draw that many fans thought it was. It was a big drawing point initially and something great to include in the Peacock deal, but on its own wasn't likely to fetch a high rights deal. Another WWE source said if they get an offer for the library that makes sense, they'll reserve the right to take it with the YouTube method in effect. So, the entire ECW TV, hardcore TV library, it's just going to be gone. Now, the WWE Vault channels, they're great. They're awesome. And I understand where they're coming from in terms of Hey, we're live streaming every episode of this. We're live streaming every pay-per-view of this. We're live streaming all the matches of this. And they end up staying on the vault. And it's a very curated situation. But for people who just want the completionist library of that content, you're fucked. It's not going to be there. Now, maybe, just maybe, at some point, they'll be like, hey, everything from 1993 ECW is up now. Maybe that'll be the case. I really doubt that's going to be the case. Right now on the WWE Vault, when it comes to, I had this thing up a second ago. I probably took it back down. There's like 42 episodes of Nitro where it's like, hey, every episode, or there's like a Nitro playlist on the WCW Vault. And it's like full episodes. And it got like the first 4 chronologically, and then it skips a month. Then it skips like another month. And then it's just like, oh, whatever episodes big events happened at, we're going to go ahead and keep those up. But if you want some random episode that you happen to remember, and then the more obscure, the less likely it's going to be that it's going to be up there. For example, the very first thing that I ever watched, I think when I became a fan of wrestling, was like a random ass episode of Saturday Night's Main Event. No. It was the WCW Saturday Night. That's what it was. It was WCW Saturday Night from like 1997, which I ended up like looking for a while ago and still didn't see that particular episode. There was like a gap. But my point stands. The whole library is coming down and it's going to be replaced by a curated WWE, WCW, ECW, NXT Vault channel on YouTube, which is there now and it has plenty of content. And it's a lot of fun how they do it. That aspect of it is actually a lot of fun, but it's not really for the completionist or the person who just wants to think, oh man, I remember this. I want to see this. Or kind of even worse, somebody who's like a historian of this stuff or wants to do a video or a video essay talking about the history of something that's going to be gone. There's not going to be a way to watch that stuff. So, sort of like doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, I guess. But for people who kind of just like that stuff is out there, it's kind of a bummer. It's kind of a drag. So, yeah, enjoy that content for the next 21 days. If there are enterprising friendos out there who just don't mind sitting there and recording a bunch of shit because you want it personally for your own private stash, you might want to get on that because you got 21 days until it's completely gone. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. Hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, buy my shit over at mfshophere.com. Till next time, we'll see you guys around.